Hi, hello, and welcome back to another Skyblock video. My name is Osauce, and today we're going to be talking about Mage builds. And we're not just going to be talking about the best Mage build, we're going to talk about Mage builds for each stage of the game: early game, mid game, late game, and end game. And the reason I'm doing this is because what I haven't seen on YouTube is videos that tell you not what the very best is, but what's best for how much money you have. Most people, they don't have 50 million coins to just spend on a mage build. They have like a couple million. This guide will give you 4 different builds for 4 different stages of the game. Those builds are great for the stage of the game you're in because they cost enough that it's good, but not too much so that it's too hard to get. And if that's the kind of stuff you're looking for, you've come to the right place. Hey, quick reminder. If you like watching stuff like this and you'd like to see more like it, I recommend subscribing and or liking the video. It makes me happy, so go do that. So, before we start talking about what gear you should be using, we first need to define what each game is, or at least what I think it is. The first stage of the game is early game. In early game, you might use lapis armor / hardened diamond armor, a silver fang, and have less than 50k net worth. At this stage in the game, you can only survive the entrance floor. Next up, mid game. Things you might be using in mid game are ender armor / early dragon armor, such as old, protector, or unstable, a raider's axe / AOTE, and have 50k to 4 million net worth. You could do the entrance fairly easily, and floor 1 is also pretty easy as well. Floor 2, however, is out of your reach. And then there's late game, the stage where you are grinding for the most expensive stuff, so you can be endgame. In late game, you might have strong armor / wise armor / young armor, perfect tier 12, mastiff, or terra armor. Those are all late game sets. And finally, you have endgame, and in endgame, there's not really that much to do. You're just grinding skills and Slayer because you have all the best stuff. Superior, Midas, Yeti sword, all of that really good stuff that everyone wants. When I'm talking about the builds, the endgame set is just going to be the current best gear. With that all out of the way, I've told you how I'm classifying what is what. I'm now going to start talking about the best builds for each stage of the game. If you want to skip to the part where you are, there will be timestamps in the description. Alright, let's start off with early game. Everything that I will mention in this build, added up, the cost is 25k, which is super affordable for an early game player. It might take you a while, but not too hard to get. So let's start off with the weapon. Now, as far as the weapon goes, there aren't many choices because they all cost millions of coins, but there is one weapon that is still powerful and really cheap, and that sword is the Dreadlord sword. You're going to want to put it on heroic, and you can get these things off of bin for like 10k. So, assuming you have to reforge it to heroic afterwards, let's just call that 11k for this sword. So, 11k for the sword. And it really isn't that bad. It gives you 300 intelligence while in dungeons, so that's a large amount for a mid-game player. And same thing for armor, that really isn't that many choices to go from, especially since most of the armors cost lots of money. But the armor that I would go for is lapis armor, except you reforge it to wise. Now, wise is still a pretty good reforge, even though necrotic is better, but wise still gives you 50 intelligence per piece, even on uncommon. So if I were to wear this and hold this sword, you can see that as an early game player, I have just around, I need to subtract some because all my accessories are bizarre. And I think that's about 400 intelligence worth of accessories, because if I take all this off, yeah, okay. So we're going to subtract 400 from the total final amount. So it looks like I'm getting around 600 mana here as an early game player, which is really good. And the lapis armor is going to cost about 15k for the entire thing. So that plus the sword is 25k. But we're not done yet, because there are other things in weapons and swords you can have as a mage class, such as accessories and pets and things like that. But as an early game player, you're not really going to have that many. things like Ink Wand or Voodoo Doll or any legendary sheeps, but something that literally only costs 50 coins to get, or maybe even less than that, is the Wand of Healing. Now, the Wand of Healing, it costs 16 Revenant Flesh. 16 Revenant Flesh literally costs 21 coins. So for 21 coins, and you also need a stick. So for 21 coins plus a stick, you can get a Wand of Healing. And the Wand of Healing, it's going to help you heal faster, so you can like go through dungeons faster without having to wait to heal. So if you have an early game party and everyone's using these, a lot of people are going to get healed. It's a great item for an early game player. And that's about it for the early game set. We are now going to move on to the mid game set. Okay, mid-game set. The price tag for this mid-game set can go anywhere from 220k to 950k, depending on how much money you want to spend on it. However, the base build is, in fact, 220k. Also very affordable for a mid-game player. And this set will give you around 1,000 bonus intelligence. I'm not going to say how much exactly you're going to have at the end of it, because if I wear this set, I'm going to have way more than 1,000 while in dungeons, because all of my talismans are on Bizarre. Let's start off with the weapon. So for the weapon, we're actually going to go with another Dreadlord sword. However, this Dreadlord sword has a gear score 25 higher than the other one, and I bought it for just about 100k coins. You can also 5-star it, or not 5-star it, but like 3-star it or something like that, for Wither Essence you get from beating floor 1 and stuff, and that will give you an extra power boost to this as well. In general, the mid-game sword is just a better variant of the early game sword, because you really still don't have access to any of the things like Ink Wand or Bonzo Staff or Frozen Sight. And as for the armor, you're gonna get some Wise Zombie Soldier 3/4 plus Wise Dark Goggles. Why Zombie Soldier, you may ask? That doesn't seem very magey. Well, in reality, it really isn't. However, it does give you lots of defense, lots of health, and it also gives you the ability to 5-star any armor. It gives you so much more stat boosts than if you were to wear something like Wise Dragon armor. And it costs way less as well. So, as you can see here, this set gives you just around 750. So if I were to wear this and I was in dungeons, I just get 750. The price for this entire set that I'm wearing right now is just about 120k, so that's going to boost up your total price to just around 220k. So if you have money to spare and you want to get better stuff, there's a couple other things you can get to boost this specific build. One of them is getting an epic Dreadlord sword instead of a rare one. You can pick one of those up for just about 300k, and that'll boost up your total build cost to 420k, which is more, but mid-game players are still able to afford it. And if you've even more money to spend than that, you can get a pet. Now, the only feasible pet is, of course, the sheep pet. However, Legendary is out of our grasp at the moment because this is only the mid-game. You can pick up a level 1 epic sheep pet for just about 350k on bin, and that will begin to reduce your mana cost and give you more intelligence the higher up you level it. So as you can see here, we have a sheep pet. This one is level 58 and it's epic, and at level 58, it will give you 58, I do believe, and it's 116 because I have a textbook. But without a textbook, it'd be 58, and the mana cost reduced will be just about 10%. It increases ability damage, it increases intelligence, and it saves your mana. It's great for a mage. And if you need even more money to spend than that, you might even already have an AOTE. But if you don't, I recommend picking one up, because teleporting and getting out of situations quickly is something that you're going to need to be able to do as a mage, seen as you are not as tanky as some of the other classes. And that's just going to about round out the mid-game set. I'm now going to begin talking about the late-game set. As we reach the late game, so many more things become available to us. Things that cost like 1 or 2 million coins are now available. And in the late game, there's a huge difference between early late game players and late game players that are more close to the end game. So this build is highly customizable, and it goes from anywhere from 4.5 million coins to 25 million coins and higher than that. So first of all, let's start off with the weapon. For the weapon, you're going to still want a Dreadlord sword. However, if you will notice, this Dreadlord sword is leagues better than the mid-game Dreadlord sword. Let's compare them real quick. As we can see, this one is epic and 5-starred. This one is just rare. Now, this one has a full 100 gear score and 18 better than this one. And while in dungeons, it has 300 better gear score. Now, that's a huge difference. If you look here, this one does 100 more damage than this one. However, it's not actually 100 more damage. It's more like 5,000 more damage because there's a multiplier on the intelligence ratings. Because you don't actually do this much damage. You do way more than that. And that's what you're going to want for your sword. Now, generally as a late game player, you can just block hit the entire time and never run out of mana, not even hitting your opponents with this Heroic Dreadlord sword. If you want to see me doing that, you can go check out my video on it, linked in the description. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Go check it out. And you can pick one of these up for just about 850k, at least that's what I picked mine up for. Really, really good for its value. It's so much better than Bonzo Staff or Frozen Sight. Next up, armor. As far as the armor goes, once again, we are basically just upgrading from the mid-game set. Except this is a huge upgrade. Now, what you're going to want to get is some 5-star zombie soldier with a Bonzo mask, or you're going to want full adaptive, full necrotic adaptive. Now, the reason why I say or, and it's not just one, is because the thing is, this set gives you 300 less intelligence than the adaptive set, and the adaptive set costs 15 million coins more. So in my opinion, it really just isn't worth it to switch from this set to the other one, because you could spend that 15 million coins on so many better things. When in dungeons, this armor and this sword will give you just about 2.2k mana without any of the blessings of wisdom or stuff like that. So really good, really good. And as for the miscellaneous section, as we get deeper into the game, you can afford more and more things. So for the miscellaneous section, we have lots of stuff. As a base build, I would 100% recommend the Zombie Sword and the AOTE. Zombie Sword allows you to heal up to basically 800 health with 4 right clicks, which gives you a lot more health and can save you multiple times. Oh, and did I mention, this Bonzo's mask has an overpowered ability that saves you when you die, gives you strength, and fully replenishes your health. So essentially, this Bonzo mask doubles your health. So here is your main healing, and then here is your main escape method. It's really good for going up against shadow assassins and things like that. If you want to, you can upgrade to the ornate zombie sword for about 800k more. It gives you more charges, and it heals you by more. I do recommend it. I'm probably going to do it at some point very soon. You should also probably have a sheep, and it should 100% have a textbook, and that will just double your mana, or double your intelligence on the sheep, and that's going to give you lots and lots more intelligence, as well as having a legendary sheep will reduce the mana cost by so much. Another thing you might want to think about buying is the Voodoo Doll. Now, the Voodoo Doll is great for doing damage to big enemies, such as Lost Adventurers, Angry Archaeologists, Shadow Assassins, that kind of thing. For this example, I'm going to be using first the Crypt Ghoul and then the Golden Ghoul against this. So it kills the Crypt Ghoul. And if I were to head down to the place where the Golden Ghoul is, 31,000 damage. And the thing is, this thing is so much more better than that. Because if you saw, it did 31,000 damage twice. So let's look at that again. If you look at this ability, this is really, really good. It's 30,000 damage for 10 seconds. 300,000 damage. And finally, we get to the endgame gear. Now, the thing about endgame gear is it's usually kinda crazy. So this list here, the total cost is just around 227 million. Now, I do not have that kind of money. In fact, I am not even probably endgame yet. I have a net worth of about 50 mil. So, according to my laws, I'm not endgame. But for my endgame build that I have here, your weapons, you're gonna have a Spirit Scepter, obviously, and maybe even a Dreadlord Sword in case you run out of mana. Your Spirit Scepter is going to be recombobulated. It's going to have Ultimate Wise on it. It's going to have all the best enchantments. It's going to be 5-starred. And that basically goes for every single other thing I say here. Necrotic Adaptive, recombobulated, fully 5-starred. And as for miscellaneous, everything from the late game part of the video, so go watch that part, plus an Ice Wand and a Recombob 5-star Yeti sword. Ice Wand, check it out. It's kind of a new thing. Not many people know about it, but it's really good. And they do cost a lot of money. And then Yeti sword, the reason why you're gonna want the Yeti sword is because it can be turned into a dungeons item now, because Ice Essence. And it has the ability, the ground stomp or whatever, and that does lots of damage as well, so it's kind of like an ink wand in that scenario. And that's about it for the end game, and that's gonna be it for the end of this video. And with that out of the way, I have nothing more to say. See ya.